All right, it's 9 o'clock on December 1st. Welcome to December, everyone, and welcome to our annual How to Apply workshop for the City of Roanoke's Arts and Cultural Funding. I'm going to start this by just asking you to keep your mic muted when you're not on. We are recording today's session, and that's so that people who can't make it right now at this particular time can watch it. And if you need to, you'll be able to go back and refer to it. And without any further ado, I'm going to introduce William Penn, our vice chair.
Good morning and welcome. And thank you all for the tremendous work that you all do in this community, in the arts community, because you keep it thriving, and that's very, very important to the city of Roanoke. I am the vice chairman of the AFAC committee, our funding committee, and I'm also co-chairman of the Arts Commission. So we have a lot of work to do, and I thoroughly enjoy it. And working with y'all is one of the privileges I have of this job. I am a retired musician, and I used to work for Tappet at one time, but now I'm semi-retired and still playing. And so the Roanoke Arts Commission consists of 15 volunteer members, and we meet once a month at least, and we have committees that work in each section that we do. We're in charge of the public art in the city. We keep the art community and everything, we help develop that, the cooperation, coordination between every art organization in the community. On my committee, not my committee, but our committee, there's Helen Dean. Helen, can you say hello? Whitney Johnson.
Good morning.
Okay. Catherine Cable, are you here? She's the newest member. Betsy, are you here, Betsy? We'll have me and Helen today, so you'll enjoy it. We have done a lot this year. We've done over about $1 million worth of APR grants. And we've got about $33,000 in program funding out in the community right now. And about $140,000 in arts funding for the 71 individual artists in the community. So I think, without bragging, that we are doing a good job trying to keep the arts alive in Roanoke City. So Doug, I think that's all I have to say. And by the way, good luck on your proposals. It's a lot of work, but it also helps you sort of refocus on what you're doing. So good luck on your proposals.
All right, thank you, William. Yeah, I've got it. You don't have to brag. I'm going to brag on you. This particular committee works super hard. They all work hard. We've got 3 committees plus an executive committee, Arts Commission, and the funding committee. When we put out $500,000 in CARES funding, almost in 2 programs. Then with the ARPA funding, $1 million, and then we said, oh, let's make it the year of the artist and use NEA ARPA funds to put into the community. And this committee's approved all of those, reviewed them, passed them on to the Arts Commission, and it's a lot of work. And on top of that, I'll say that I've been a funder for 20 some years, and when I first got exposed to the city's arts and cultural funding process, I was, wow, this is a super robust process, and it's citizen-led. Citizens reviewing the applications and making the recommendations. I think it's pretty powerful. So I just want to say thank you to them for their efforts. All right, so today we're going to talk first a little bit about our work together and where we see that we're headed, or we think we're headed. It's a big year of experimentation, and I want to talk a little bit about that because it's relevant to this work. Then we'll talk about the application process. And I asked you in the registration for some questions and tips, and we're going to go through those questions and tips, and then have some real time for questions, and have some reminders as well. So just to give you a little background, part of what William said we do is kind of support and help kind of see the coordination of arts and culture in the community. What does it all add up to? In the past, that's been done through the Arts and Cultural Plan. And we did that in 2011, 12, brought everybody together, all the stakeholders, and said, okay, this is what we're doing. It is time for us to do a new Arts and Cultural Plan, but we don't believe it's necessarily time because organizations are rebuilding, regrouping from the pandemic. We're still not even that comfortable sometimes, bringing everybody into a big room together. And I think if we were to say, what are the arts and culture doing? What's arts and culture doing for our community? We might have the same responses, the same thing we've always done. So this year we said we were going to experiment in a variety of ways and try and explore emergent strategies and see what happens when we put resources in people's hands, what can happen. Now, there are a number of ways we're doing that, and we're also asking partners to help us experiment. This group here in this Zoom space has been part of that as we started to align our arts and cultural funding with City Plan 2040, which was kind of a push. And we'll talk about that. You'll see, if you haven't looked at it yet, you'll see that it could be a little challenge to fit into some of those boxes. But this is all part of the experimentation, because what we're doing is building a structure for our next arts and cultural plan. And this is how we see right now that we're thinking about it. It's not very new and unusual. It really takes City Plan 2040 and it takes our existing arts and cultural plan and says, okay, what are the categories? So one of the primary categories that we're experimenting in and exploring is equity and belonging. And we're doing that in a variety of ways. Many of you have been part of DEI training with us. There's a DEI part of the work plan for the Arts Commission. There are specific elements that are advancing equity, justice, and inclusion. We have this our art and place structure, which is ask the question, well, how do people in the community who want to make something happen through physical art projects, how do they have access to these resources? How can they propose a project? Is it only people who have access, or is there a broader way? So we've created a structure and we're making that more robust. Art Matters grants, we put $100,000 out on the street and said, and artists tell us how we can advance justice, wellness, and inclusion in the community. We've got 11 artists in residence exploring in partnership with the city right now on how we can advance City Plan 2040 through the arts. We participate every year in the Welcoming Week effort, and then it is a focus of this program as well. We're asking you how we can do this, and that's why we ask equity questions, board makeup, et cetera. And we'll talk more about that as we come along. Health and well-being, again, our Art Matters grants. Many of you probably saw the Buzz for Good show that focused on the healing arts through many of your organizations. Some of you participated in that show, where we where we're doing some storytelling and saying, hey, these are pockets of how the arts are making the community a better place. And we hope and expect that in these pockets that you all are going to see yourself. You may see yourself in every one of these pockets. But this is part of the storytelling where we're showing the intersection of the arts and our broad community goals. And additionally, you can tell us in this application, you can say, hey, here's how we are advancing wellness in the community. And that's something that we're interested in funding. Education and lifelong learning on January 18th, I believe the date is, there'll be the next Buzz for Good episode looking at our spectacular Roanoke City public schools and all of the work that's happening with the arts and the access that young people have to the arts through the schools. And so I think that framing is important. And of course, you can apply for programs, and many of you do apply for programs that are focusing on lifelong learning, whether it's with seniors, very young, in specific populations. Quality neighborhood and places, or strong neighborhoods and places. This is a focus that we are really interested in through our Art Matters grants, the Art and Place strategy. We've applied for funding to create basically a catalog of engagements that a neighborhood, a community organization, a church, a business could look at the catalog and say, hey, I'd like to have a quartet come, and a jazz quartet, and say, come and talk about improvisation and decision-making with our organization. So what we'd like to do in that grant is pay organizations and individual artists to develop this content, and then we market it and kind of create additional revenue streams and kind of do good work in the community. So that's kind of coming down the pipe, we hope. Again, you'll see that this is a program focus, and then the arches and Southeast Greenway murals, you see that that's one way that we work, where we partner with the neighborhoods and ask them to help shape what they want to see happen. We're exploring with economic and community development. There'll be a Buzz for Good episode with this. We are not very good in our community of saying how the arts are advancing economic development in the community. And there's a difference between economic development and community development. And so we want to emphasize both of those. So that's something in the next arts and cultural plan that we're going to be focused on. And again, I think that there'll be that Buzz for Good episode. And I think we're going to be better storytelling for our sector as we do that. We're doing YODA, our Year of the Artist training. We've done 20 trainings this year with individual artists, and these are for artists at the community development table. So artists who are doing community development work and agents of change. And we think that we're creating a foundation that's going to last a long time and get us far. And then finally, regional identity. So there's the Arts Connect messaging and you see this brand here. Many of you were involved in discussions about this identity and a collective identity, both during the pandemic recovery and onward. All these ways that the arts connect us and connect us to opportunity and connect us to wellness and connect neighbors across neighborhoods. So we're going to keep working with this. And I imagine our next arts and cultural plan will probably be the Arts Connect plan. I think this is something that so far it seems like it has legs. And there's some meaningful work around it, I think. And additionally, you can look at our collective work, and the Arts Pop episode of the Buzz for Good is showing everybody together the work that we're doing. We can create a community where everyone can tell you what arts and culture does for them, how we're at work in their lives. That's something we can build toward, and that does create a community identity and a regional identity. And I'm going to share with you, let's see, Mill Mountain Theater. Is Ginger on? Let's see, is Bruce on? Bruce Bryan. Okay.
Hey, Doug, I'm here, and I saw John Levin's here as well.
Oh, yeah, there's John. Well, I've got your video. If you're okay with me showing this, do you want to cue it up or anything?
So this was done in the second half of the year to help promote the arts. I guess I should share my camera, sorry, to help promote the arts as an economic driver for the community. And the money and the project went through Mill Mountain Theater. But when you see this commercial, I hope, and it's running right now, so you might have already seen it. But when you see it, I hope you could see that we created it in such a way that it could very easily be a message that the Jefferson Center or the RSO or Five Points Music Sanctuary or somebody else could use. You could be in the place where Ginger is. We shot it very inexpensively through the same company that did Buzz for Good. And you'll see that even though it ran through Mill Mountain Theater, it's capturing a wide mix of arts organizations in it. So hopefully, Doug, that helps to set the table.
Yeah, that was perfect. And here's our 30-second spot.
The best of Roanoke emerges during hard times. The arts are not only a powerful economic force, but a way to see the world anew and foster the connections that matter most. I'm Ginger Poole, the producing artistic director at Mill Mountain Theater, inviting you to experience the arts and how they connect all of Roanoke.
Thank you, Bruce and Mill Mountain Theater. That was part of the ARPA funding we put out. I said we're experimenting a lot. The ARPA resources have been a rare opportunity to experiment. And we said, hey, what can you do that's going to advance us collectively with a little bit of marketing money? And that's one of the tools that came through. And, regional identity, regional strength, community identity, it doesn't happen. Not everything is communicated all as one. It's everybody telling their own individual story individually, and then it all adds up. So I think this is a really good example of that. So thank you for bearing with me as I ran through that very briefly. We really do believe it's important to think about arts and culture and where it's going to get us in the next 5-10 years. And you all are all critical partners in that. So expect some smaller group conversations on individual topics coming through the next year as we, people might say that we've started this planning process a year ago. Everything we're doing is really about stakeholder engagement. And we're asking you to tell us how we can best use resources and attract additional resources to strengthen the work that you're doing and make it add up to even more. So with all of that, we're going to dive into the application process. The application is live now. Becky's turned that button, so you'll be able to go on the United Way EC Impact system and apply. This is the same system we've been using in recent years. Many of you are already used to it. Becky is a terrific resource, and we're going to let her talk a little bit at the end, or just kind of give her the spotlight again to let you know that once you do it once, it gets easier. We've got lots of people who are in the room who are able to help you and share as kind of a community. And then Becky's here as well. Now, the one thing that we are very, very firm on is the deadline. We turned this off at noon on January 26, 2022, or 2023. Look at that. Say I'm resistant. We're all resistant to change. I don't want the year to change. So 2023, excuse that typo, but January 26th at noon, that's when it's got to be due. We will not be able to take any proposals after that. And our system, we're basically keeping the same calendar as each year. We've changed things by a day, really. We do provide an opportunity for each of you. It is not required, but each organization will take a day where the AFAC committee just dedicates the whole day. We hop in a Zoom room and people can come in for 15 minutes and talk about their project. That's one of the most rewarding things about being on the committee, is getting to know the organizations after reviewing the grants. And I'll tell you what happens is the reviewers review the grants, then have this space to meet with the applicants, and then they review the grants again. So it really is a helpful opportunity. Then they will get together on April 6th, and we'll create the structure. We'll look at how much money council is giving us or dedicating to this budget line, and we'll look at the applications and all of the scores, and they'll take the scores and they'll tier things out and identify a recommendation of an amount for each successful organization. And then on April 18th, those will go to the Roanoke Arts Commission. The Arts Commission typically approves those. And then on June 5th, they'll go to council. Everything the Arts Commission does is a recommendation to council. And so that what we'll do is in April, after the Arts Commission makes the approval, we'll send a letter to you and say, hey, here's what we think you're going to get. We know you need to budget for your coming program, and that will give you a heads up. It's not final until June. We've never had council come back and say, change anything, but there is always that possibility. Now we've got on the website, you all know where it is. You found your way here, but if you go to the city's website and look under arts and culture, right there on the left-hand side under our menu, it says city funding for arts and culture. And we try and put everything you need there, in addition to on the United Way system. But there's a link there to the EC Impact Quick Start Guide, a link to their system login page. So if you ever need something, this is a good place to go. So again, the city does program funding for organizations. This is not operational funding. It needs to be assigned to a program. The more it can, I'm not doing a very good job of watching the, okay, good. The link to that EC Impact is in the chat. I just noticed that. Now I've got that box open, so I'll track the chat. This is program funding. Only 20% could go to your indirect cost, your overhead cost. If you need to apply some to rent, to your telephone, those kinds of things. this staffing for the executive director, all those all together can only be up to 20% of this. All right, and it's important. This is important to us. It would be really hard for us to come through in auditing and looking at this, to look at your entire organizational budget for a larger organization. If you only have a program for us, we can just look at that program. And there are a lot of benefits for you and for us on that. Additionally, we're asking you about the impact of your work, and it's going to be a lot easier to tell a good story around a program than it is your entire operation. The criteria, again, City Plan 2040, right now we're in kind of this hybrid space where we are planning that new arts and cultural plan will probably come out hopefully for the next round, or if not then the following round. But until then, we're using City Plan 2040, interwoven equity, healthy community, harmony with nature, livable built environment, resilient economy, and responsible regionalism. So we're asking you to offer us a program that helps us advance goals in these areas. Now, we know that you might look at those, and during a transition period like that, our goal is to fund you, and we want to provide support because like William said, we think you're doing very important work in the community. We're not trying to do anything to like change who we're funding. What we're trying to do is advance our goals together. So we have the one piece from the former arts and cultural, not former, the still standing arts and cultural plan that we've accomplished 80% of is lifelong learning. And so many of your projects we know can fall under that if they don't fall under something else. But we do invite you to look at it and say, now, what is the work that our event is doing in the community? How might it be advancing one of these other categories, say healthy community or interwoven equity? So we do look at some key things as well. Community need, the program that you're doing, that's really, that's where folks look. They look at the budget, what you're going to spend, what you're going to spend it doing, and what you're trying to accomplish. We do ask about collaboration, and that's program collaboration. This year, we're also going to look for interest. We're going to be looking at another aspect of collaboration. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. Your organizational management, there is risk involved with funding and providing public dollars to organizations, and we want to minimize our risk. So we do look at organizational management and financial stability of your organization. So the goals and objectives, what you're trying to accomplish, we've referred to these in a number of ways, and a lot of you are very familiar with this structure. And we take this from the United Way. This was developed a while ago, and I think a lot of you are really adept at this now. We ask that you choose one major goal within these categories. So your program might be meeting all interwoven equity, healthy community, et cetera. We're just asking you to choose one of those, and then identify up to 3 objectives. And within those objectives, your objectives, what you're going to be measuring. So we're asking what activities you're going to do, like what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, how you're going to know you did it, and what your goals were for it. So we've got an example, and this is so a goal would be to change the world. That is your goal. Your goal is to make the world a better place. Now, and this is a good time for me to say this, the grants that we have through this program are for nonprofit organizations. And a nonprofit organization, by definition, through a 501c3, your goal is to make the world a better place. That's a very broad thing. Secondly, we ask that you have been providing services for 3 years in order to be eligible. So it might be that you've just gotten your 501c3, but you have been providing services for 3 years prior to becoming a formal 501c3, and that's okay. You would be eligible for our funding. And it might be that there are people on the call who might not be part of a nonprofit organization yet, or haven't developed a nonprofit organization from their efforts, but they might have been doing work for 5 or 10 years already. it's possible to apply for city funding through a physical agent. And we can talk, you can call me, we can talk more about that. It's good to have someone, if you have a nonprofit organization who's going to help you, you can, it's good for it to be mission aligned, somebody who's kind of working in the same field. That often develops a little bit of a mentor-mentee relationship, which is terrific as well. And we invite organizations who are applying and are traditionally apply for grants. If someone approaches you and says, hey, we'd like to work on a project for the city through this funding, could you be our physical agent? We would invite you to explore that. You can apply for 2 grants with us if you're doing that. So it would not take away from your program if you were doing that. But if you're exploring that on either side, feel free to just give us a call and we can talk about it. Okay. So now that we've established that these are all projects that are making the world a better place, and that's a very big goal, and it's hard to measure, we've got to get more specific. So the specific goal is to increase student access to and knowledge of dance. And there are a whole lot of reasons why you want to do that. Your objective is getting to where it's measurable. So you want to increase access to dance performance for elementary age children. You can't make the world a better place all at once. You've got to find a specific arena, a specific population, a specific place that you're going to do this in. So you're specifically looking at elementary age children and your activities. So how are you going to do that? So you're going to schedule tours and introductory performance workshops for elementary students. And that you could say, here it says all elementary students. So I would assume that would be in the city of Roanoke, every elementary school and all ages and grades within that school. Again, that might even be too much. So you can get more specific in your activities. And so you would go back, you'd say, okay, we got to get more specific. We got to change our objective. We're going to increase access for 2nd grade children. You can go back and change that in your objective, and then your activities are going to change to help you meet that objective. Your target would then be, okay, well, how many students do we have? Okay, we've got 500 students. We want every one of them to participate. So that can be your target. You know that not everyone's going to grab hold of it. So you want to set a measure for, they're to tell if they've grabbed hold of it. And here they've said, okay, well, half the students will grab hold of it. Those targets then become your indicators and what you track and what we ask you to report on a quarterly basis. So that was a very quick overview. And a number of you, we've worked on this in kind of in depth on specific projects. We invite you to call us and talk about it, send it to us, and we'll run through it. We've got some people here in the room who are terrific at this and really enjoy. We've got some really strategic minds in this group. And there are people who really enjoy that part of program design. And I'm sure they'd be happy to help you think through that as well. All right, so we've got the link already. We've got the easy start document is on the web page as well. And then Becky's going to follow up with you after this. We've got 40 people who had registered for the call and representing 30 different organizations. So we're going to get those organizations and the leads to Becky through the registration of this, and we'll make sure everybody has access to the system. The system looks something like this, and you'll see in there when you come in, it's City of Roanoke applications. Now there are 2 different grant programs that have opened today. One is the Arts and Culture grant, and that's on the bottom of the page. And up top are human service grants. And you can, and we've got a case of this already, I think. You can apply for a human services grant if your realm is in human services, but if you're doing a specific art activity and it meets the guidelines and is selected, you can end up actually getting both of these, because we're asking you what you're offering to do for the community through arts and culture. And you can respond to that even if you're working primarily in health and human services. So then once you find arts and culture and you go in, you look at the application and you go, okay, well, this application is in 2 different sections. The first is your agency. And I told you that there's a certain amount of risk when we fund a program. That's where we are really looking at the way the organization is managed, your budget, the board representation, and this is all pretty standard information. So there's a recommendation you'll see later. Someone says, go ahead and start this part first and get that done, and then come back in later and do your program grant. And that gets you comfortable with the system. Plus you get that sense of, oh yeah, I'm halfway there, man. This is going to go really well. Because if you're like me, you procrastinate because you're a little scared. I'm scared of what I'm going to find when I open that system up, and I feel it every time. With the National Endowment for the Arts System, every time I go to open that thing, I feel a little bit of anxiety, and I put off opening it because of that. But that's a little self-knowledge, and probably sharing too much with you. And so you'll see there are two sections, or two like major sections, and then within it there are lots of little sections. Now these little sections, you can go in and fill it out and save it and be done with it. And you can save it within each section. And we encourage you to save it frequently within each section. So I make my list. You can see my to-do list, like right here, and it's got little check boxes next to it. And I cross things out, and it feels really good to do that. So you can go through here and do it section by section and get, 20% done and know you're 20% done with it. But just remember to keep saving within the section. And print and save the application before submitting it. You can reach out to me and I can get you a copy of it. I download all of these, but it's better if you have it on file. And I do that because I forget sometimes what I said I'm going to do in a grant. By the time 9 months have passed and I've gotten the grant, I'm like, I'm going to stick my head back in it. So we ask you to print and save the entire application. Read through all those instructions once so you know what you've got ahead of you before you dig into it. There is a resource center on there, and I'll show a picture of that in a second. And the resource center has the City Plan 2040. It has some information about City Plan 2040. Some nerds, me and some other folks, did a book discussion about City Plan 2040, and there are even links to those those discussions and such where we're talking about why the city's doing what it's doing. Even that kind of stuff is in there. We do ask you that you tell us if you're not going to apply. If you're not going to apply, we'll remove your access to the system, and that'll save us a little bit of money, I think. Now down to the bottom left, when you have clicked into your application, you'll see the resource center at the bottom left, and there it says Roanoke City Arts and Culture. There are 5 documents in there. So just click on that. If you need something and it's not there, just give me a holler and we can get it to you. One of the primary documents in there is our policy around arts and cultural funding. And that's a good thing. It tells you, what you need to do to get the money once we tell you you've got access to it as well. And there, like when you get inside it, that's what I think this is what you see now. Yeah, those policies. And then the representations and agreement form, you'll see the final section on the application has upload. It's just a place for uploads, and it's like A through J or K. And this representation and agreements form is one of those uploads. Yeah. Okay. Those agency sections, just a little more deeply, general information on your agency. Standards for funded agencies, the administrative and financial information, board participation in the financial review. And in our policy, it tells you like what level of financial review you need for your organization. We don't require a full audit for smaller organizations. If you do, if an audit is required, you're a larger organization and you don't have it come January 26th for this current year, we've got your last one on file. You can tell us when you expect to get it, and we'll go back in and add that in once you have that document. Board and staff diversity, there's a whole section on this, and we're really clear about it, that this is very important to us, and it does make a difference. The people we have around the table, the perspectives we have around the table, as we're making decisions and making investments, can help us make better decisions and better investments. We're convinced too, even on things like programming that is going to work in the community and speak to the community and generate an audience in the community, will benefit from broad community perspectives as those decisions are being made. All right. Okay, every year we also ask about board giving. We require 100% board giving. Members of the board should participate, we believe. We don't need to know how much they're giving, but we just want to know that they're giving. So you tell us that there's 100% participation. Don't tell us how much they're that they are contributing. We do want to see your board attendance for the last 12 months. We're doing that for two reasons. One, we want to, again, we're managing our risk. We want to make sure that your board is active, that your board's meeting, and that your participants on the board are supporting the organization through active decision making. And you'll see there's a form for that. If you haven't had a board meeting, nothing says you have to have a monthly board meeting. Some organizations have moved to every 2 months. Some during the pandemic moved to every other week. And that's the kind of responsive nimbleness and decision making structures we'd like to see, right? Meet when you need to meet, meet even more when you need to meet more, but make them meaningful meetings. Of course, any one of your board members wants to feel like they're contributing in a number of ways. Let's see. So we ask this about board diversity in a number of ways. We want to know what your goals are. We did DEI planning with a lot of the organizations who are here in the room, and we have basically had a structure and a pathway for diversity, for planning around cultural diversity in the organization. And so we hope that your board is having those conversations. What are your goals? How's your organization reflecting the community now? How could it better reflect the community? What are your strategies for that? So we ask you that question because we know that to do meaningful work in this arena in our community it's an ongoing process. We do not affect change overnight, and we know that we're living in a system that has historic structures that include racism, that inform the work that we do, the way we do it, the way we've always done it. And as we're having those intentional conversations to step outside of that, we know it takes time. So we're asking you, how you're doing it, because we're all trying to learn together as we do it. New this year, additionally, as we learn together how we're creating a stronger community through arts and culture, we have a question regarding service to the field. And this came up in a workshop recently, and someone said, well, this other organizations ask about this in the arts, because we know that collaboration happens at the program level, but sometimes we forget about what makes this ecosystem work across organizations. And so we're trying to learn that, and this again is in anticipation for our next arts and cultural plan. We're asking you how you provide service to the field or service to the sector. What are you doing that is advancing us generally? And I'm going to read this description, and we can talk about it too in a little question and answer session as well. But this question will not be scored. We're not going to rate you up or down because of it. But this is a good opportunity, we thought, to get a little of this information, to be thinking about it. And this could change, this could get added in there in some way. Who knows? But we're in a learning posture. So service to the field. Collaboration goes deeper than projects and programs. As we are strengthening our ecosystem of arts and culture in Roanoke, what services does your organization provide to artists and arts organizations? Some examples might include research studies, shared administrative or technical services, professional development workshops, and shared promotional materials. Please list the provided or shared service and the organizations who benefit. Now, this could look like a lot of different things, and there's some examples listed there, but I was thinking after listing these examples, I was like, wow, you know, an organization could hire local artists, hires local set designers, does graphic design, hires local graphic designers, you know, if that is a policy that your organization has, in a way, it's a purchasing policy, or could be. If you are helping to strengthen our local arts sector and creative sector by hiring locally, put that in there. I think it's a really interesting and powerful way, because the money that's spent locally advances the community much more. You know, if money that's spent, you know, in another state or online somewhere doesn't do a whole lot within our community. But if we've got creative minds here in the community that are part of this larger sector, and you're purchasing from them, list that, and you don't have to tell us who it is and how much necessarily, but you can say we hire local graphic design, blah, 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 and we think we spend this much amount of money. If you have that handy, that's, you know, eventually, I think, like I said, we're learning, we will probably end up doing something much deeper in that area as we continue to look at that intersection of arts and culture, economic and community development, business creation, entrepreneurship, those things. I hope that we're going to be a little more robust. I think I've used that word 3 times today. Okay, we're going to be a lot stronger in that area, I hope, in coming years. And this is part of where we might be headed with our next arts and cultural plan. So if you are providing marketing services for other organizations, if you're hiring artists, you know, that's one way you can list that. And it's an important message in the community. And it's part of the, you know, we do a lot of talking about the economic impact of arts with a big number. You know, we talk about the number of jobs. This can make it a little bit more real as you're telling the story of the importance of your organization in the community. Okay, so that's all on the agency side. In the program section, we're asking you what you're offering us, how it matches our priorities, how you're collaborating, what your objectives are. That budget is a critical piece, so the program budget. And then who is benefiting from it? And we do care about who's benefiting from the program, and we're asking for demographic information on that. It is required. And then this is where those attachments are. Program tips. I helped somebody apply for a grant recently, and I reviewed the grant, and it was not the best. It was not the best written grant, but they gave it to me so late in the day that I couldn't do much with it. And my response was, okay, if you can change one thing, give it a better title. And which is interesting, I think, because it just communicated, they changed the title and they ended up getting a big grant because they set the expectation of what the program was going to do. It wasn't just, you know, a concert. It was, you know, a concert that reaches, you know, a certain demographic and has this outcome in the community. And they built all that into the program title. And it was just I'm trying to learn all the time. It was a good lesson for me. So program title, give your program a good title, but it's okay if it changes later on. You're not stuck with that. Your grant program title could be different than the program title you're advertising in the community. It doesn't have to be the exact same thing, but we want to know what you're doing. If it helps you communicate to us, give it a good communicative name. The justification, we do not want to spend public dollars doubly. We don't want to pay twice for the same program from 2 different organizations. There's got to be a gap in there. There's got to be something specific about what you're doing, what your objective is, who it's serving, and how it's benefiting the community that we see unique in your program. And there is so much happening in the world of arts and culture in making the world a better place. On our Year of the Artist portal on our website, you can look in there. There's a social, I guess it's called social impact, but it's every kind of impact. The NEA or Americans for the Arts came out with it, but you can find it on there. It's got great examples of measurable impact that are happening through arts and culture. Some of these studies are good data for us. We like to do things on our own here. But there are models out there in other communities, and we can certainly be learning from them. If there are studies that have happened on it, we know that it benefits reading levels in a nationally. It's going to do it here too. We would think so. You can use national studies. You can use studies from other cities. And again, align with our goals. We've hit that. Okay. And then I'm going to run through these fairly briefly. Interwoven equity, just so that we're all kind of see what falls under that. Leading community healing, providing quality education for all residents, avoiding displacement resulting from gentrification, leading development of a culture of inclusion in Roanoke, and building capacity for community-based organizations to better connect with the residents. Healthy community, ensure equitable access to recreational facilities and programming, support partnership approaches to providing assistance to at-risk populations, provide education about healthy lifestyle choices in food services, family health, mental health, and substance abuse treatment considered essential community needs. So there's an other in here too. Everybody who's doing work, say you're in a healing arts program, you're doing work in your own specific way. And it may not look exactly like fit perfectly into one of those, but these are good guides, kind of examples of things that we're thinking about. Harmony with nature. Grow and promote Roanoke's outdoor tourism identity as an economic driver. Enhance outdoor access and recreation through regional collaboration. Support beautification efforts in all neighborhoods. Target pollution reduction while providing for environmental justice. And improve community outreach and education to increase environmental awareness, promote sustainable practices, and reinforce positive action within the community. We're seeing a lot of our artists and residents are going to work in kind of areas like this. And a lot of these things you go, how's that a fit? Or how does the work that we're doing now work in that way? And like we just gave an Art Matters grant to a dance project. Susie Young's leading it. It's a dance project working where she's taking dance students and they're working on farms, on urban farms, then writing poetry about it. And they're going to create performances. And so this placemaking doesn't have to be visual art; it could be performance art. Again, we're asking you to show us what this means. So we won't be able to tell you, but we love it when we see it. Livable built environment, preserve culturally, historically, and architecturally significant building sites and districts, support development of new and strengthen existing mixed-use neighborhood centers with locally distinctive physical public places for people to interact, integrate arts and culture activities in physical design and revitalization strategies of neighborhoods in a manner that highlights local talent citywide. I love that. I mean, that's placemaking. Okay, and then working to grow a unified regional identity under regionalism. Under resilient economy, promote tourism in the area, promote the region's assets and strengths to recruit new and develop existing businesses in the city, improve the vitality of existing commercial corridors and corridors. I'll say that better. Support the growth of locally owned businesses. This is in our plan. We do want to support locally owned businesses. Yeah, we're going to head somewhere by 2040. And then lifelong learning encourages arts and culture programs for people of all ages and social sectors, achieves greater collective impact through strong networks and collaborations, and builds links among area education. That's K-12 and higher education. And I know that we've got Virginia Western here, we've got Hollins and Roanoke College. This is a city program, but we understand that we live in a region and our partners are often not within the jurisdictional borders. So those K-12 and higher education programs, when you're partnering with somebody, and even say it's North Cross, we still we get the value of it, even though we're the city and one of our primary partners in education is Roanoke City Public Schools. Okay, again, only the program budget. That's all we care about. That's what we want to see, is how you're spending the money on this particular program. The rates in that form auto-calculate. And there's a spot for a budget narrative. When I'm writing a grant, I always use it to tell information that I don't have room to tell anywhere else. You don't have to use that. It just say an A if you don't think you need it. Again, demographics are required. So who is benefiting from this? Now, find a way to count it. You're creative. This is my big selling pitch about the arts and culture, is that we are, there's so many creative minds, and that we can help, address problems in our city and challenges in our city and goals of our city in ways that no one else might think to do. So we need to have arts and cultural folks around the table as decisions are being discussed. I know that we're creative enough to identify who's benefiting from our programs, analyze that, and say who else can be benefiting from these programs. And that's why we're asking for this information. You can tell it to us in either a 6-month period or a 12-month period. Okay, now here's our check to see if we've answered questions that you had. Here are the questions that you had when you put your registration in. Is there anything significantly different this year? So the one question that's not going to be judged, it is being different, is that service to the sector. The commission's priorities have not changed. We are learning more as we go. I think we're even more deeply invested in the things that we've been invested in. And those are the same categories. So the categories have not changed. And we are interested in learning from you and how we can be a better community through your programs. Outcomes we'd most like to see from the grants, I would say that interwoven equity, the community wellness part, because those are the areas that I think we've awoken to in a way since the 2012, 2011 program. Those are going to be more robust because we're exploring them more. We want to know how to do it. So I think that's one thing that we're interested in those outcomes. Organization, again, 501c3 organization or a nonprofit or an organization that's been providing services that's working with a physical agent. We don't provide funding for-profit organizations. How to strengthen goals and objectives where capturing data is a challenge. How to strengthen goals and objectives where capturing data is a challenge. Well, I'd say just give us a call when you're creating this. If you can't think of how to measure it, there may be some proxy information that we can use. Your partners will have measurable information. You're not in this alone. If you're working on a program that benefits students in Roanoke City Public Schools, they might have some data or access to data that they might be able to share with you. So explore your partners as well with that. What are acceptable objectives and outcomes for open events where data is not captured? Again, talk to us about that. I wasn't quite sure what that meant. Sometimes you haven't been capturing data, but it might be that there's an intern or somebody who might capture data in a 2-hour period with a little volunteer time. But again, we're happy to help you kind of think through that, or what a proxy might be if it's needed. Where does a healing arts program using sound and color fit in for a grant? I would say under that healthy community. I think that's smack dab in the middle of that. Is there a grant available for capital projects? We do not have funds for capital projects. This is so small, it's $340,000 probably if we get the same level of funding. So we don't have through the Arts Commission, we don't have any resources for capital projects. But if you're working on something, let me know. I have some, through my other job, we might have some programs that we can talk to you about. Would an artist residency qualify? I think that could qualify. We just need to talk about it, what your goals are, what the objectives are within it, and how it's structured. General grant process resources locally. That I think this was asking like, hey, I'm starting to apply for grants. What can I do? I'd say the Community Foundation has a great regular program for nonprofits, and I think that's a terrific resource. There's a database for grants that the library has access to that we all have access to through the library. The network of folks here are a terrific resource. When we open it up for questions and comments, some folks might have some other resources as well. Your tips: start early and break it into smaller chunks. Do the agency portion now, do the program section later. The character limit is your friend. So if you've got 500 characters or 500 words, use the most, get us the most important information. I loved how they said, share the most vital and exciting information. So capture the interest with that little bit of information. Please do talk to us. And someone said, start the year before researching and compiling opportunities. Yes, I love it. I mean, it's hard to do that now, but you can start working for next year. Okay, ensure that information from your previous events is well documented. Have fun, live your dreams. Never assume you can't accomplish it. Find a way to make it happen. Get rid of that part of you that's judging what you're doing. I thought these were all great tips. And then one, apply to everything without attachment. The worst they can do is say no. That might be, whoever wrote that might be a writer, because I've gotten so many rejection letters from journals and such. And eventually you're like, oh, well, there's another one, and you don't worry about it. However, this one, we do have a pretty high rate of, this is not like the journals that I submit work to. We have a pretty high rate of funding. And again, our goal is to, we're the Arts Commission. We didn't add to, we're an advocacy organization. The city wants us to advocate for arts and culture in the community to them. That's kind of cool. So we hope to grow the resources that we're putting into arts and culture organizations. And with that, the first thing I want to do is turn it over to Becky and let her fill in a little bit and let you hear her voice, because she is our #1 go-to person with questions on this technical side when you're applying. And so, Becky, you want to say hi to folks?
Hi, everybody. I'm really excited to get this started again this year. It's nice to see your faces. I just want to say that this is my favorite part of the year, because I get to stalk your applications and see what stuff you have going on for the upcoming year, so I can plan what things I'm going to attend. You all don't realize how the importance for those of us who live in the area, like the events that you all have going on, the things that you do, the community activities, that has really saved a lot of us coming out of this pandemic. The events that I've gone to that have brought joy to me personally have all been things that were part of arts and culture here in Roanoke. So thank you so much. Just from someone who lives here, we appreciate you. EC Impact is web-based, so your username is your first initial, last name. I reset everybody at the beginning of the year to a generic password. So when Doug sends me the registration, what I'm going to do is reset all of your logins, and then I'm going to send you an email. It's going to have the link. It will have your username, and it will have the temporary password. Then you can change your password to anything you want. Here's something that has changed with EC Impact. For those of you who've been doing this for a long time, you know that at the end of the grant process, we make everyone's logins inactive. We no longer do that because their licensing model has changed. So yes, print a copy of your application. But if you don't print a copy, that is totally okay. You can log back in later and get it. So just keep in mind that your login is not made inactive this year. Prior year applications are saved in the historical area. So you can go back and see what you did last year or the year before that. You can copy and paste from those. I love Doug's idea of a checklist because that's actually what I do when I set your applications up. And EC Impact will allow you to print the screen with all the little pieces. So you can print that screen and just keep it as your to-do list and mark stuff off. Because if you're like me, I still like paper. Sorry, I don't like this electronic stuff. I want my paper. It makes me happy. If you have any problems, email me or call me. I'm going to put my contact information in the comments area. Please feel free to email or call as many times as you need to. If that is 20 times, then please feel free. I love hearing from you all. This is, you all are my favorites. So, so I love hearing from everybody. I'm stuck in an office. It's just me and the dog. I have no human contact. So I am grateful for anybody I get to talk to during the day. So let me know if there's anything you need. The other caution, again, I'm just going to say it one more time. Doug's already said it. Save. Save constantly. Because the biggest disappointment with web-based software is that sometimes it crashes. And that's not just EC Impact. That's anything that's web-based. You know, I'm sure you've noticed when you've done online shopping, as even on, you know, big sites like Amazon, you think you've placed your order and then no, your order did not get placed. Why? You clicked complete and it should have gotten placed. It's the same thing with any web-based software application. That's why I encourage you to save. And that's also another good reason to print each section as you finish it, because you have it. I can also log in as you and see what you've done. So if you have a question about a specific section or you don't know how to fill in a question, I can actually log in as you and take a look at what you've done and let you know what's causing the problem for you. Some folks have trouble with submitting at the very end. If you get to the submit page and you're not sure what to do, please feel free to call or email me. I'm happy to help. And like I said, it's wonderful to hear from all of you. So thank you.
Thank you, Becky. We really appreciate you. I couldn't do this. We couldn't do this without Becky. And let's open it up. Any questions? Any first we'll take questions, and I'll also point to the chat. Val Tenson gave a testimonial and said, Becky in the past has been super helpful in terms of answering technical questions in an accurate and quick manner. Thanks, Becky. Keep up the terrific work. And then, so Becky's contact information is there. Grab that, write that down there in your notebook. Any questions, anything we haven't covered?
Hi,
Jane.
Doug.
Oh,
Sorry. I have a very quick question. What is the threshold for the requirement for an audit?
yeah, there are 3 different tiers. I'll invite you. I don't have it open in front of me. One thing I learned in the Navy you don't have to know all the answers, but you have to know where to find the answers. And it is listed in that policy document that's on the website. And there are 3 tiers, and we can talk about it. And so check that out. I should have had a slide on that, but since I'm afraid of putting out wrong information from memory. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Doug, this is Dr. Dyer, the Valley Chamber Orchestra. If we have a proposal and it's done early, and then I have to go to a conference out of the country on the 9th, and I'll be back on the 14th. And can I have someone else be the secondary contact person or bring them on board right away? What would you recommend?
So you're, are you saying this is in January with around the
Yeah,
application?
yeah, the two things that one I'd probably want to submit early, and two, may have a co-submitter, which is someone else on the board to kind of track outcomes as they, if something happens before I get back.
Yeah, Becky, do you want to, what's the best way?
There, I had to unmute myself. Yes, you can have multiple folks log in. So if you just want to shoot me that person's name and email address, then they can also be set up in EC Impact. And that
Perfect.
way, you know, both of you can work on the application, or they can work on the application while you're out of the country. Either way, and that's true for all of you. So if any of you have other folks helping you, if there's a group of you working on the grant together, just send me the login information. It does not cost us extra to add multiple users. So, and it doesn't cost the city extra for us to have those logins. So just send me names and email addresses and I will hook you up.
Thank you very much. That answers the question.
Great, thanks, Becky. Let's see, and Jane, you had your hand up earlier.
Yeah, I got a couple of questions. I'll try to make it quick. So I come to this training every year. I think this is my third year. And I always just fail to see how I could dive in with a nonprofit. I've got tons of ideas, but I don't know how to make that connection. And I'm just wondering if there's some place where we could just have a bulletin board, be like, artist has this idea. Does this fit with your organization? Hit me up. Like, I'll give you an example. I've got an idea about the Response Journal Project and a pilot program with 10 kids who get this amazing journal and gel pens. And we look for the bully kids and the incarcerated parent kids and, you know, a parent that's died kids, and get them to write in this journal. And once a month, it goes to an artist who gives them a response in the journal and directs what they're thinking about. And I'm like, that would be a great project for a nonprofit, but I don't know how to connect it. And the second question is, how do we compete with these stanchions of nonprofits that are funded every year? Because it's like all these really big ones, you know?
Yeah. We're great. These are two terrific conversations. One is that, yeah, we don't, you know, there's no expectation of funding, and that if one organization's been funded in the past year or the past 30 years, that they're going to get funding this year. So it you know, it's not related to the last year's funding necessarily. But yeah, we do not want to have a space in which emerging organizations are precluded from access to resources. That is a status quo model. We are working in every way we can think of to beat that. Now, so part of the Year in Artist in Residence this year, Jane, everybody, is our Gun Violence Commission Artist in Residence, and just did an amazing project, piloted it, the Empathy Project. Check that out, where she's doing active listening and arts-based responses to create empathy and help us hear the stories of lives that have been cut short by gun violence and the families and who have been impacted by it. This is important work. And again, we may not be doing that work if we're funding the same organizations to do the same work every year, we're not going to find these opportunities. So we are in that creative space of trying to find the opportunities. I think the idea of a bulletin board or a matchmaking session or some kind of fun event at one point would be a terrific Year of the Artist project. And it might be some kind of culminating event, Jane, and I'd like to invite you to think about that. And part of a process like that, the idea would be to find that mission alignment. So what is an organization? What is a larger organization? What are their goals? Do they have goals that they're having trouble responding to? One grant that the Arts Commission was very pleased about last year, and Ahu's on the phone, on the call from Blue Ridge Literacy, we talk about beneficiary audiences. Who is attending your programs? And we know that you are busy developing programs, and we hope that you've got, good outreach, and you're building these strong relationships. We know you've got these strong relationships, but we also have organizations who are built around those relationships. So Blue Ridge Literacy is working with learners of English who have other languages as primary languages, with recent refugees, recent residents in Roanoke, refugees from other countries, folks who are working to build citizenship in the United States. And so we gave them a grant last year to do a curriculum, and they're going around to your organizations, and I'm seeing these pictures, and I'm seeing them at the opera, and I'm just like, wow, this is so cool. This is so cool. So that kind of alignment where, and that could come from an artist, it could come from someone else, but it is building those relationships. And there's nothing like building the relationships other than getting out there and talking to people and meeting people. And maybe we can find a way, Jane, to create a space for that to happen. Did I hit all the points or okay, yeah. So you heard, okay, everybody who's in the call now, you heard Jane's idea about that response journal. Now, if that's a fit with something, like I'm seeing, like look, there's Jerry on the call, and Jerry, good golly, the Artemis Journal, the founding of that, how that was founded, the work with women in the region. This work, there are long legacies of this important work in making the community a better place. So I imagine you heard that the Artist Response Journal, and you're like, yeah, that sounds great.
Yes, it makes it all worthwhile. I am so happy with how Artemis has grown and evolved, and we had 153 artists and writers in the latest journal. And it's just been a phenomenal success this year for selling. People really appreciate it. And for those of you that haven't seen it, it's gorgeous. And we're so thrilled to have all the artists and writers that participate. And we had a successful launch at the museum in September. That was wonderful. After being locked down for a couple of years with the pandemic, people came out. We had a sold out crowd of 80 people, and I just couldn't be happier with how Artemis has evolved.
And Jane, do you know Jerry?
I sure did.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I bet you'll have a good conversation about that kind of strategy, because it ties back to the origins of Artemis Journal. Yeah.
Yes, I would be glad to entertain that conversation anytime, Jane. And I believe we've even published your work through the years.
Yeah, you sure have. I'm in the last one that came out. So thank you.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you. Yeah, let's get together and talk. We'll figure something out.
That'd be great.
All right. Other questions?
Oh, I have one question, Doug. When you were talking about how we involve the community and hire different people, I do hire graphic artists to help put the journal together. And then I was wondering if I would also include the printers. This is Bison Printers out of Bedford. Would I put that in the grant as another source of providing some work and jobs for the community?
I think it's of great interest. So please do. And I can imagine too, where we have a informal network too, where we're saying, hey, here's a local printer who's doing great work for me. Here's, the more we keep these dollars local, and you saw, we have the mandate, it's in City Plan 2040 that we should be doing this. So that's our
Great.
Permission to do it. Yeah.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have one more, Doug, or just a comment. I developed a program for veterans, reading, healing through reading, and it was to deal with PTSD issues. I don't know if we do anything with veterans, but basically what they were doing is writing journals about their experiences and then having group meetings and literally reading their writing. Now, they weren't being judged on how well they wrote, but it had a tremendous impact on their sharing of common experiences rather than just having the oral sharing. There was a written experience, and then what you write down really reflects your inner self. So I don't know if we do anything with veterans that could be part of the wellness healing process.
It certainly could be. And we've had conversations. Katie Biddle is no longer at Carillion with the healing arts, but we were having conversations about how to get more happening. And we've had people reach out to veterans who said, is there a program here locally? So we'd love to learn more about that and figure out, let's talk offline.
Yeah. And then just one more thing. I have another program called Fitness by Design that I developed that reached hundreds of people at the university where I was a dean, and it also fits into all of this, and it targeted underserved populations that were not healthy and such, and it had tremendous impact. And this is all new to me with you guys, so I'd like to talk to you about that as well, even though it's not Valley Chamber Orchestra. Sorry.
Well, sure. And again, just how Jane and Jerry just kind of demonstrated for us, a lot of this happens in these connections. And there might be an arts organization here around the table who is right now having a board conversation about what are we doing to support veterans in our community. So there might be some good connections.
Okay, thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Real quick, in fact, Brooke Tolley at the Opera Roanoke has a big veterans outreach in February that she's planning. So you might want to connect with Brooke.
Thank you, Bruce. I don't know why that didn't pop into my head, but that is terrific.
Yeah, I sing with the opera, so I know Brooke.
Oh yeah. Yeah, excellent. All right, so let's Ahu.
I'll be quick. Well, thank you for all of this information, and Doc, thank you for for the grant last year. We have been absolutely enjoying exploring the arts and culture organizations, and this is a great platform. If it is okay with everyone, can I send an email to all of you with general outline of what we are trying to do to see if there's any interest on continuing these conversations one-on-one afterwards?
Yes, send it to me and I'll get it out to everybody. Yeah, that's terrific. All right. And then we're wrapping up. A couple of reminders, the ARPA, you're closing, if you got an ARPA grant this past year, your closing reports are due today. And Wayne Leftwich is coordinating that for us. And that's under that's a Google form. And I'm sure he's reminded you about that. Additionally, the Arts Commission has just put out its upcoming call for the Elmwood Art Walk. The theme is Artist at Work, and this is culminating our Year of the Artist efforts. And again, this is temporary sculpture. We pay $4,500 per piece to lease it for 2 years. Now, I know we have like set designers, we have sculptors, we have folks who are creatively attached to your organizations. And I want you to explore this because we think, it's art, it's every kind of artist. How are artists making our community a better place? We like to have at least half of the pieces in the call be by local artists. So know that that's out there, and we'd love you to help us spread the word. That's due on January 27th. And with that, we want to say thank you. We said we had 1 hour and 15 minutes for this, and we're right there at it. Mark your calendars on January 26th at noon. That's when your application is due. Please contact me. Please contact Becky if we can provide any support. I do want to give a shout out to Ben Bazak, who's one of our Arts Commission members, and he's been on here the whole time checking it out. He's not on the funding committee, but I can just see it in his eyes. He's got the desire now after being in this call. All right. Okay, with that, I'm going to stop recording and I'm going to linger a little bit, and we'll let everybody close up shop. But if you have a question that you weren't comfortable asking in front of everybody, I'll be on here for a little bit. Great, and thank you all.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.